I turned this water bottle into 3D filament for my printer, and now I want to show you how I did that and what I'm printing. Well, I drink a lot of water, specifically those 3-liter bigger ones, and it came to a point where I was recycling a lot of water bottles. And I had just gotten this 3D printer because I wanted to print things for my garden this summer instead of spending like $1 million on all of my gardening supplies and trellises and seeds. You know, the life of an urban gardener princess. Well, I got tired of throwing all of this plastic out. And yeah, I could have just drank tap water, but I'm a spring water queen. So I knew I wasn't gonna stop buying the water bottles anytime soon, but I wanted to find a way to stop contributing to all of the plastic-related problems in our environment. And that meant the only way that I could do that was to figure out a way to repurpose these water bottles. As I continued to print things for my garden, I noticed that the filament that gets extruded through the printer looks oddly similar to plastic. And if I could just find a way to take one of the many water bottles that I had and turn it into filament that I could then feed through my printer, I could not only save so much money on filament because they're like $40 each and I go through them quick like the urban gardener princess I am, but I could also contribute to a more green and sustainable environment through repurposing my own plastic and ensuring that the water bottles didn't end up in a landfill somewhere or in an ocean somewhere that the turtles then choke on and die. Listen, we all know that I want to be the mother of all turtles. So therein, my journey began. That was like December, but the problem was I'm a garden princess. I'm not an engineer and I'm not an electrician, but I had to figure out how to build this machine called the Pedimentor filament maker so that I could then cut my water bottles into strips, even strips in diameter, and then feed them through my self-built machine. And then use that filament that comes out on the other side of that machine that I built into my 3D printer. Cool, right? Nah, it's freaking awesome. Plus, we all know that on this channel, it's all trial and error. So I got to work. And remember, this was December. So by beginning of January, the new year, new me, I became an electrician and I became an engineer. Listen, I set my mind to doing this and I was not gonna fail. Well, I did fail. A lot. But I was determined as heckin' to be the coolest person ever and accomplish this task that I had no idea where to even start with. So I ordered all the pieces, I followed some YouTube videos to get the wires all connected. I ran into so many problems. And I do have another video explaining that process in more detail, which you should totally go check out because there were a lot of problems. And I was lucky enough to also get some help from some people I met from a Facebook group that are also building this machine. There's like 5,000 of them, and they happened to run into some of the same issues that I did, thankfully, and they helped me fight the battle of these issues and climb the summit of turning plastic water bottles into 3D printer filament so that I could become the queen of turtles. It was so complicated to even cut the water bottles into even strips with the right diameter so that I could melt them properly through my extruder. And I had to find the right stretching point temperature too, which was also really hard. I do plan on optimizing these processes so that it can happen even more seamlessly, but listen, you gotta hear the rest of the story because it is intense and it is amazing. Anywho, once that machine was built, it was time to start making the filament. I ran into even more issues here because I didn't realize at first that I had to put the plastic through the nozzle before heating it up. So I spent like a month heating up the machine first and then attempting to pull the plastic strips through, and right before I was about to give up, just kidding, I never give up, I reminded myself that I'm not melting the plastic. I'm really only stretching it to the point where it can be pulled through the nozzle and then attached to my pulley, and filament therein could be made. And don't worry about the fumes, since it's not being melted, only stretched, it's really not that bad for you. It's like making a fire or melting anything else that you would melt. Anywho, so once I got the twerks worked out, we finally had filament. My pulley also needed some optimization because it wasn't pulling properly, and that's still a work in progress. But the point was, even though I spent 5 hours pulling the filament onto the pulley manually, we finally had filament that I was at that point so excited to try and extrude through my 3D printer. The settings on my printer all had to also be changed for this material because instead of a regular piece of filament, the plastic strips from the water bottle were just stretched to an oval shape, so technically there was a little air pocket right in the middle of the filament like a straw. So that meant, of course, the settings needed to accommodate that hollow part of the filament, and the speed and the bed temperature and the flow rate too needed adjusting. So I went at this for weeks, okay? It had already taken me 1 month to figure out how to cut my bottles into strips evenly with the right diameter, 2 months to build my Pedimentor filament maker machine and become an electrician and engineer, and then another full month to figure out the right printer settings to actually print something successfully. I know we were all really excited for that. But remember, I didn't care how long this was gonna take me, and if you're an engineer or an electrician, you're probably laughing right now at the time span that it took me to build this thing. But if you're a communications major like me, you're probably impressed. Thank you very much. So finally, after numerous tries and multiple weeks passing me by and a number of people in that Facebook group helping me out to find the sweet spot settings, I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel because it was working. Here we go. I cannot even begin to tell you the rush of joy that I felt when I finally saw that plastic coming out of the extruder, because trust me, this took me so many tries. It wouldn't even come out at all until this very moment, so this was huge. And of course, even though it came out from the side when it started to print, it wasn't working, and I figured, okay, maybe there was a clog. It gets clogged so often, so I went back to electrician mindset and I fixed it and then went at it again. I attempted to print a little square from my shrimp tank because a pack of 6 of those are like $30 at the store, but printing 6 of them here would cost me maybe 10 or 20 cents. And guess what? I stood by that printer all day, waiting and waiting. Oh my God, you guys, look. That is a plastic water bottle printing something for my shrimps. I finally may have figured out, because I expect more roadblocks along the way, but I'm like dancing right now. Let's see if it can actually print the whole thing. I'm like freaking out. Where is it? That's the plastic. I know I have to clean it. Don't come at me. Some of the little cubes melted and didn't work properly, but finally my cube was printing. It looked like it was successful and it was almost done. Not without the few mistakes, however. That's a success, okay? I'm trying it again. I'll leave it for longer this time, but it just looked like it was, yeah, let's try again. But the final one that I attempted, that really worked, and then it was almost done, okay? It's all trial and error. Oh my God. I cannot believe it. It's cool. And even though it did, for some reason, melt at the end of it, and there's still more that I have to figure out, I was so excited. Let's go. Jumping for joy at the fact that this urban gardener princess was now about to upgrade her throne spot to the Queen of Turtles. There was only one more problem with this cube. See, now it messed up the Z-axis, and now it's not lined up. Like, what the hell? I'm gonna pause it, but I don't understand how that happens. Like, is it supposed to have printed something already? Like, this is a success though. I'm just so puzzled right now. I don't understand it. It's going so well. I'm thinking, let's try this again. Have faith, because look at this. Oh yeah, this is supposed to be a little square for my shrimps, but then you can see where it stopped like extruding. So let's try again. Cube PET, got all the settings. Yeah, see, the filament fell out. It stopped. Yeah, okay, I'll put it back in. Ah! Guys, I just want to print something, but this is the best thing that we printed so far. Just so weak, the filament. Let's see if it's coming out. Yeah, seems to be coming out. So I literally have to stand here pushing it down? Like, I don't think that's a possibility. Then I figured it out and printed it. Okay, I'm sorry, but just, it's all trial and error. We already all know that. But listen, this was a success. And I'm gonna figure out all the twerks that I'll need to figure out until we get it right and start printing even more stuff for the garden. But we literally, like, this is just the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I feel so good about it. So for me, the moral of this story is that, for one, you can truly do anything that you set your mind to if you're consistent with it and you really wanna make it happen. And for two, You can be more sustainable and contribute to a more green and healthy environment by finding ways to repurpose your plastic, especially in those ways that serve your passions, like gardening or 3D printing or bug metamorphosis or aquatic plant life. I'm gonna try and make a video of me actually putting this machine together because a lot of you have been asking me how, and I want more of you to be able to make it yourself so that you too can be more sustainable at home and be the coolest person ever. But this whole thing with all the parts that I ordered cost me about 300 Canadian dollars, which yeah, it is pretty expensive, but it's totally well worth it knowing that spending that money would help repurpose plastic in a way that could actually impact the entire world globally. To change and shift our ways of thinking about recycling, about using plastic, and the different effects that this all has on the environment around us. I was literally watching this Earth video the other day, admiring how stunning the Earth is and thinking, wow, there's so many animals and so many plants and so many mountains, and then there's humans, and we gotta find ways not to do that. We gotta be like the animals in the mountains, okay? But seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this, drop a comment on any suggestions you have for me as to what I should print, but I was thinking I would try printing some water bowls for the turtles at the zoo and bring them and meet all the turtles. And I'm also in the midst of designing my summer garden right now, and I really want to figure out a way to print some really tall trellises for outside so that my plants can grow really big on my apartment balcony. You know, urban garden princess turned throne queen mother of turtles. But the problem with that is that the filament may melt in the sun outdoors, so my plants, and that's because you need a specific material for 3D printing if you're gonna bring them outside in the summer. I went through that mistake already, and I had like 7 pots melt on me, so I figured that one out too. But I'm gonna talk to my friends in that Facebook group and see if there's a way that I could print this type of material and bring it outside and not have it melt. So if that's a possibility, then great, and if not, it's okay because we're just gonna print stuff for inside. But there is still so much to do in this project, so don't forget to come back for updates, like, comment, follow, subscribe. Always remember that I love you so freaking much, and I'm genuinely thankful to have you all following along my journey of 3D printing to plastic waste. We finally reached the summit, and now, of course, there's more to do. So with that said, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.